Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bankroll Burners, the podcast for poker players who can't stop getting it in bad. I'm Mike,
And I'm Josh.
and it has been a long time since you guys have heard from us, but we're back. We're back playing some poker, punting off some stacks, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, hopefully in our absence, you guys have managed to build some skills, improve your bankrolls, get better at playing, because that's all, once again, going out the window once you listen to this and think, wow, I should play like those guys.
Yeah, I feel like every minute spent listening to this podcast is like negative EV on your next session.
Oh,
So,
yeah, easily. And hopefully some of you are out at the WSOP, maybe even playing the main event. Thankfully, we don't have too much to offer on tournaments, or else we can almost guarantee that you can bust quickly.
yeah. No, we're not tournament players over here. We're cash players, not good cash players, but we're cash players, and that's what we're going to be talking about. For those of you who are new, just joining, on this podcast, Josh and I each go through two hands we played recently in live no limit Texas Hold'em, low stakes, and we just review each other's hands. We do a deep dive and a live react and see how we could have played it better.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up. I'm happy to get started. I have a fun development since the last time we spoke, as I've been trying to play more 2-5. Especially when I go to Encore, I think it's good to not play 1-3, given that the rake is ridiculous. As you may or may not know, to our listeners, Encore Boston Harbor rakes up to $10, which is really bad for a 1-3 game, even one with a fairly deep buy-in of 500, which the Encore Boston Harbor 1-3 game is. But still, when I try to get into the 2-5 games, I will say they are definitely very reggy, and sometimes it's the bad kind of regs, and the games are just terrible. I was there last week, and there were 4 tables that were all awful. So
Nice.
I probably shouldn't have even played. I should have just played some 1-3 and sucked it up. But I just sat there and bled away some chips.
So when you say reggy, are you meaning like these guys are good or they're just really tight?
I think it can be both. There were definitely a handful of players who were like on the list for 5-10 and seemed like they were pretty, and a handful of players who were like, I would say are pretty good, like pretty tight, aggressive type players. We'll definitely put you in spots. And there are some, and there are some that are just tight, and I don't mind playing in those games as much. I know some people really don't like playing in super tight cash games, but I mean, there are definitely ways to make money there. You raise preflop and get called, and you should just c-bet all of your hands, because if they don't hit, they will just fold their like 2 overs and backdoor.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I actually would rather play against like skilled players than really tight like guys. Personally, it's just
Yeah.
more fun. No, I'm going to lose money anyway, right?
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, as you might expect, I mean, it's still relatively low stakes. Most of the players in the player pool are still like pretty bad and like probably playing too loose. Like I would say most of them are actually err on the side of too loose. Most of the time when I've played 2-5, there have been a lot of like multi-way pots, even in like raised pots and fewer 3-bet pots. But there have definitely been a couple tables, including the most recent one I was at, where it has been a lot of heads up, a lot of folded pre-flop, a lot of 3-bet pots. And we even got the straddle on. The straddle was on basically the whole like 4 hours I was there, and
Nice.
it just did not help. So, I
No.
mean, that's life. That's some tables are going to be like that. Sometimes the cards don't help. But anyway, both of these. So it's a long way of saying both of these hands are going to be from 2-5 at Encore. And in this first hand, we're going to be playing roughly 700 effective. There's no straddle on in this hand, and the action starts with. And these are all 9-handed games, I should note. The action starts with MP opening to 20 and the hijack calling. Hero is sitting in the cutoff with ace, queen offsuit, ace of hearts, queen of diamonds. I'm 3-betting this all day, especially given the middle position player is more of an action player. Definitely one of the players that I'd like to play a lot of hands with at the table. So definitely wanna try and get heads up against him, or at least I'm likely going to be in position. And of course, this is a three bettable hand.
Yeah, I mean, is there ever consideration for flat? Do you ever flat this in this spot? Like, are you ever flatting this to like an open and a call from any seat, or is this always a 3-bet for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably flat this if like UTG opens and it's like a decent player. But you know what? If this particular player opened from anywhere, I would definitely be 3-betting because he will open and he will mix opening and limping, as far as I can tell, with most hands, especially those suited. So, yeah.
I actually think, if it goes like UTG open and then like MP call and you think UTG is solid, you might just fold.
Yeah, I mean, that feels so gross, but
I know it does. Like, obviously, if you're like trying to get invited to a home game or something, you're not gonna fold. But like, if you're just playing there and like a really solid dude opens EP and gets called EP, I mean, this is like Ace Queen sucks.
Yes,
Ace
no,
Queen
I agree for sure. I think this is a 3-bet. I mean, first of all, it's middle position and hijack.
Yeah, right, of course.
So it's a little bit looser, but also a lot of players, like a lot of regs who maybe are not very good. I'd say one really big leak is they don't think about position opening at all, and so that kind of works in two ways. Where I think people open too wide from early position, and also just don't open nearly the volume of hands they should on the button.
Yeah,
like you never see people open a hand like 6-3 suited from the button or something like that, when it's
which
around
you should not do also optimally, but maybe you can do because people are bad. But okay,
what I mean. Lots of suited hands.
Yes, you're definitely right.
Yeah, I think so. So it's definitely player dependent. But if it was a pretty good player that opened and then anyone called in the middle, I would consider folding this, but I probably wouldn't. I mean,
yeah, right, of course. All right, so you raise it up 100?
I make it 85. I'm in position, so I make it 4x. So I'm gonna cut it, hero cut off, ace queen offsuit to 85. So add 4x plus a little bit. And then things go a little weird pretty much right away. The big blind cold calls.
Love it.
I think the big blind is, I don't know. The big blind has occasionally struck me as a solid player. Not so much in this particular instance. So,
yeah, I mean, this is going to be like jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, suited broadways mostly.
Yeah, a lot of pocket pairs for sure is how I see it, and likely some suited broadways as well. And then the other two players actually fold.
Interesting.
So now we're heads up in position with about 210 in the pot and like 615 behind against a cold caller.
So, I mean, are you ever just like, what's your thought before you even hit the flop? Are you like, well, this guy's range is extremely condensed and I'm basically just going to barrel 3 streets almost no matter what happens type of thing?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I think if like high cards come out, like if the flop comes ace, king, or queen high, I'm definitely just going to try and get it in. But if the board, like, I think I'd like and maybe all low cards too. We can definitely bet flop and then evaluate depending on the turn. But so I guess most of the time. But there are definitely more middling boards that I think really connect well with his range in this spot as well.
Sure. I mean, I guess it depends on the sort of player he is. Like, because sometimes, like in these spots, obviously there are going to be boards where that will give them a very strong hand. But if they're the sort of player who's always going to let you know when they have a really strong hand.
Which I don't think he is necessary. I don't think this player is necessarily.
Okay, fair enough. So, well, because I think there are a lot of players in the field who, when they cold call a 3-bet out of position, you can basically just hammer them.
Right, because if they have it, you're saying basically like if they flopped a set or even like an overpair, they're just gonna raise, and then you can just fold your hands like ace queen on like 10-7 deuce or something.
Sure, but then like if it's like. They're just check call, like just jamming in the river. They're going to fold most of the time. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, the flop to me comes out a board that I'm not super thrilled about seeing. It's 8-6-4 rainbow. So 8 of diamonds, 6 of clubs, 4 of spades.
I mean, it's not going to connect with his cold calling range unless he has specifically 8s. Like, he's going to have a decent amount of like weakish overpairs here. But I don't know. I don't hate this spot. Like, it's better than like 10-9-7.
That's true, for sure. And he checks it over to me.
Okay.
And I just decide to check it back here. I mean, I think that I do have some three betting hands that I can barrel here that are lower down in my range, and I also, like I said, I feel like he's just got a lot of pairs here that aren't gonna be folding. So I'd rather and I do think he is the type who can definitely check raise sometimes with those hands. So I decided to just check back. I don't think I have a great advantage on this board, and I guess I don't know. It's so hard to know exactly what's in his cold calling range. But I just basically I just decided, you know what, let's get a free card. I'm not in love with the board and how it interacts with his range, so I'm just gonna go to the turn.
Interesting. I don't know. So you're saying like this is a board that, but you're like saying in an optimal sense you would check this board sometimes. Like maybe if it was like if you had gone like 3-bet and then high or MP called, then sure. But like this was a cold caller, so it's already like optimal is out the window.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just kind of thinking about his range, in terms of his range, like parts of like the suited Broadway part of his range, we are just like ahead of and probably aren't calling, and the like pocket pair part of his range is like, I mean, it depends if he's playing. Some people play like every pocket pair as a call, even to a 3-bet. Like I've definitely seen people cold call 3-bets with like pocket fours. And so I think he might have a nut advantage here. I don't know, and I recognize that I still have the range advantage, but I don't think that this is a board I want to bet 100% of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I guess like I just feel like he's just weak here so much, and I would rather just take it down or start to apply pressure to make him. Because like if you don't, it might be hard to make him fold 9s. If you only have 2 more streets of pressure to apply, depending on what the run out is. Versus. I would rather like start it on the flop, and then you might even be able to get some turn folds. But
yeah, I mean it's true. It's true. I'm wary of doing that with like my whole range, just because like I do think that like people do. I have definitely people in this pool, and I would, at least in the live pool that I've played with, definitely do find just like calls, and so I'd rather not like barrel with like every hand in my range that missed, because I think that's just like torching long term.
Yeah. I mean, of course, in general. I just mean in this specific configuration, you're not going to run into it that much, of course. But okay.
And given this particular hand doesn't really have good properties for the type of range we're up against, I don't know. I could probably go either way, but I just worry. I have been trying to think, like, I have definitely run into it in that way where it's like they just decide, I have a pair or whatever, I'm just going with it the whole way. And then you're like, okay, if I'm barreling all the way with ace queen, then I'm just like I'm just barreling with everything, and that means I'm just like getting crushed if he's that type of player.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's got to be villain independent. All right, so you check it back. What's the turn?
And the turn is a pretty one. It's the ace of diamonds.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, never mind. Whatever I said doesn't matter.
No, I mean, it does. So the turn comes the ace of diamonds. He checks it over to me, and now of course I would like to put some money in the pot. And so what are we thinking in terms of sizing here?
Well, it's certainly one of those spots where he has no strong hands almost at all in his range, so you're probably allowed to bet rather large. I don't really know exactly what sizing I would take. I mean, it sounds like, if you what would you do if you had like king queen suited? Let's say, like, what would you want to do? What kind of sizing would you want to take?
I'd probably just go geometric, because like there's like a 3x SPR.
Okay.
So it's like that. It's not that. It's pretty easy to get all the money in by the river, given this depth that we started at, and the SPR at the time. So I think I am pretty much betting my whole range here at this point, because I think, once this ace comes, like I'm just absolutely obliterating him.
Yeah, and I do think it's it kind of can bet like most of your range. Like a lot of your flop checkbacks are going to contain an ace too. So I think it's fine. I think betting geometric's fine. If you were deeper, it's maybe more like nuanced discussion, but just going geometric seems fine. So.
Yeah, I'd probably would bet on bigger if we were deeper. Like again, you can go geometric like all the way up to like 4x pot behind, right? And then we just bet pot. So it's like, but yes, I think in this particular case that does make sense. The one thing that I'm thinking about as I, prepare to bet, and we can talk about it as we get to the river, because I do basically wind up betting. I bet 135, which is a little bit small. I realize as I'm looking at it, my goal was to bet geometric. I wound up going just a little bit too small here. But he does want, and villain calls, so he basically has a pot size bet behind. There's like, it's like 480.
Okay.
So, you know, close. I mean, it's good enough for government work. Ideally could have gone a little bit bigger just to set up, you know, a slightly smaller river jam.
Yeah.
Okay. And at this point, I am kind of thinking, you know, once he calls, right, he pretty much should never have like any kind of suited Broadway. I even have the Queen of Diamonds, so the board at this point is 8 of diamonds, 6 of clubs, 4 of spades, ace of diamonds. So it's really hard for him to have like a flush draw here. He'd need to have like pretty much King Jack or Jack 10 specifically. Mm-hmm. And then he can definitely have some like Ace Jack, maybe some Ace Jack suited, and he probably has like a lot of pocket pairs.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this is actually, I mean, this is also an interesting point because, you know, to think about turn sizing, because if that's the case, I mean, it feels like the turn is like where we're going to get our value. So maybe we should just go bigger on the turn with plan to like check back river a lot, because like we're just not going to get more value from a hand like tens.
Well, you think about if you had gone geometric, it might be a little easier to get that value. I mean, that's sort of the point of geometric bet sizing. You know, certainly I don't think a hand like tens is gonna, if you get like the river bricks off like a deuce, I don't think he's gonna call you with tens. But certainly if you had gone, I mean, what would have been geometric, like
like just a little bigger, like 160, 150 or something.
Yeah, and then
because we bet like 60% pot, so maybe we'd gone like 75, 80%. That would have been about right.
Yeah, and I mean, even that might be a little bit more palatable of a river call with a hand like tens, but
right. But does that mean we should just like pot turn? Like, can we just go, because his range is so condensed? Like, should we just kind of go maximum exploitative and basically like pot the turn and then check back river with our value and jam river with our bluffs? Because his range is just so pocket pair heavy.
Well, I guess I wonder why you think we're not allowed to still go for value on the river anyway.
I just think it's really hard to get called by worse.
Even like Ace Jack.
Well, maybe Ace Jack, but anyway, that is a great time to jump to the river because the river comes off the Jack of Spades.
Interesting.
And he checks it for a third time.
This is a bad card, I guess, because it makes Jacks now beats you, Ace Jack now beats you. You're still beating tens, Ace 10, Ace 9 if he has it.
I mean, if he has Ace 9, I should never leave this table.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're not. I mean, you're beating queens, which you block. And
I think this villain would probably 4-bet queens.
Okay.
Although I guess I mean it's hard to say when someone has a cold calling range whether they're like actually have a real cold, like a well thought out cold calling range, or
they definitely don't. But,
right.
Yeah.
It's probably the classic live. I have this hand that I'd like to play and I don't want to put more money in.
Yeah, I mean this card's really weird because you're dealing with such a condensed range. It like actually makes a pretty significant difference in what you beat and what you don't beat. Like there's not a ton of hands you beat now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean I think there are plenty of hands that I beat. I don't think there are many hands that will call a bet that I beat.
Right. Tens,
it's,
nines.
I think the big difference, right? And right, because I think to your point when we were talking about the turn is if it had rolled off like a deuce. Like, I think I would be betting, and whether it's jamming or whether it's betting, like, you know, a third pot and just, like, trying to squeeze out some value from his, like, random pocket pairs, you know, is a matter for debate, right? But I think we can just, like, this is, like, I mean, because he's played exploitably, we can just exploit and say, you know what? And I'd probably jam with all my bluffs and then, like, mix my value. On the river, you know what I like? If
on this river specifically, you mean?
No, on a brick. I think this river. I think I should probably just. I mean, I think I should just check back.
Yeah, it feels nitty. Like
yeah, it does feel
nitty. If he had a normal range, you know, if this again was MP who called your 3-bet, I think you have to bet here.
Yeah.
I think because he can just have so many more hands, but like with how, I mean, like, I guess what hands does, if this had been like MP calling your 3-bet, I mean, he can have.
Well, this particular MP could have like a lot of hands.
Okay, but let's just think about like a general like MP range. I mean, there's There's more, I don't know, what, like King Jack maybe, probably not. Which probably doesn't call it a turn.
It would have to be like King Jack of diamonds.
Which this guy could have too.
Yeah, and yeah, so maybe there's still an argument to like make a small bet exploitatively.
I'm just trying to think about like what would a quote unquote normal range contain here that you would be trying to get value from, and like then which of those hands are missing.
Right.
I mean, he could probably have, more random suited aces. I would think would be like MP could have more like aces
I
up.
think more like hands that were like a pair and a straight draw on the turn, like hands like 8-7.
But those hands aren't going to call a bet anyway.
Right. I mean, yeah, if the river bricked, they might, but if the river is high as a Broadway card, probably not.
Jack, yeah, they're probably not calling a bet. So I guess there's not even that much to get value from if he had a normal range.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting, and not something I thought of after I played this hand, is to, see what the solver says when you sort of put it as like a, MP open and a cutoff 3-bet and MP calls versus the like squeeze and then cold call type ranges, right? This does throw it off, but basically, yeah, I mean, I think that would be interesting to see whether it does. And as we know, the solver is very greedy, so maybe in that case, it is just bet jam because we have that. I mean, another thing is it's not they're obviously like villains in a 3-bet pot can also have ace king a lot more than like the solver does. Mm-hmm. So might have to make that adjustment too, but
I just feel like the MP player has more random like suited ace X.
Yes, I would agree.
Versus this guy with I don't see people cold call like suited aces.
Not most of the time, except like Broadway aces. Like I mean, I've seen people cold call ace king for crying out loud.
Sure. So I don't know. I think it's fine to just check here.
Okay, I do check. And I just he just kind of like shakes his head, so I just chow because I'm happy to just chow. I'm not real. What am I gonna do?
So he had a draw.
Yeah, or maybe like a bad pair. Maybe like 10s or 9s that just saw 2 overcards roll off. Mm-hmm. Right. So he does just muck, and I take it down. But it left just it was a weird hand because it left me wondering like I feel like I only got one street of value with ace queen turning an ace and.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the idea of betting very large on the turn. Like back to your like really big question was like, should we bet bigger on the turn because we have such an absurd range advantage?
Because that's such a good exploit because we would be doing that with all our bluffs too.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's. The thing is like I don't know that it's an exploit. I mean, it's hard to say like what is an exploit because there's no such thing as optimal play here. But
right, that's true.
Yeah, I mean. I do kind of like the idea because you can just get a lot more value that way, and it puts him in a tougher spot when you have a bluff.
Yeah.
So, but I don't agree that you have to check back river, I guess is sort of my point. But, yeah, I do think that maybe taking a pot size or even a slight overbet on the turn is a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But anyway, let's move. Let's keep it moving.
Okay, well...
Welcome back to poker, and it sounds like things are... it sounds like you're making good decisions.
This is some great decision. So, I'm debating... I have a huge pot, just an over $2,000 pot hand, or I have a just hand that I just, like... I literally have no idea what the hell I was doing hand.
Well, I mean,
I'm not sure which to... Now I'm not sure which to start with,
Well, start with the what the hell were you doing, and we'll finish with the big one.
Okay, all right. So... We're 1,000 effective here, 7-handed. I am playing 2-5 here at Best Bet Jacksonville. They recently raised the cap to $1,000, which is pretty cool. We are 1,000 effective in this hand, and the straddle was on kind of intermittently. This straddle was on in this hand, so we're 2-5-10.
You know what's cool? Sorry to interrupt, but as you talk about cap, I forgot that Gate City Casino, formerly Boston Billiards Club, their 1-3 game is now Match the Stack.
Whoa, that's actually pretty cool.
Which I have not played in, but I saw it on Poker Atlas, and I was like, wow, that game probably plays crazy, because the people who play at that casino are quite bad.
Yeah, that's actually kind of sick.
Yeah.
I kind of want to... Next time I'm in Nashville, I may have gander over.
Yeah, just...
that sounds like a sick game.
Just play it aside, because that game sounds like it would probably be quite fun.
Yeah, well... At any rate, so yeah, best bet Jacksonville 2-5. Not a strong player pool, as not as much as Encore sounds like. So, yeah. So this particular hand is 2-5-10, and I'm in the middle blind with Ace of Clubs, King of Spades. It actually folds all the way to me.
Oh, bummer.
And I make it 35, which was a standard open over the straddle. There was quite a bit of straddle. Like I said, it was about half straddle. So This was what people were opening to over the straddle. And the straddle calls. The straddle is a what I would describe as like trappy sort of player.
Although he can certainly have a very wide defense range. People do not like folding their straddles.
For sure. I'm not saying this player is good.
Yeah.
Also.
Great.
I wasn't complimenting him or dissing him. I was just saying he was trappy.
Okay.
The flop comes. So pretty standard so far. It's $70 in the middle.
And nice job. You played this hand impeccably so far.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, that was it. That's it for the solid play.
Okay.
The flop comes Jack 8-7 3 clubs.
So we have the Ace of Clubs.
We have the Ace of Clubs. We have the nut flush draw and 2 overs.
Okay.
Typically, I mean, so in a sort of like button versus big blind spot, you're usually or even like low jack versus button, I think is the same. It's just like generally the preflop aggressor can bet a large volume of hands for a medium volume of hands for a small size. So, don't bet a ton, don't bet very rarely, and use a small size.
You mean on a monotone board?
On a monotone board. Yeah, I don't know if that's still true blind versus blind, though.
And this is also definitely a more connected monotone board compared to like, King 7 Deuce or something monotone. So maybe that changes things also. But I mean, you have the Ace of Clubs. It can't be terrible to bet here.
Right. It's like it can't be that bad to bet.
Yeah, you have oodles of equity.
Right. So I do decide to bet, and I use a small size. I bet 25.
Okay.
And he calls. So
okay.
Nothing super
important. I think this is reasonable.
Yeah, right. But I'm already just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do like in this hand? Like I'm just like, I literally have no idea how you're supposed to play blind versus blind monotone board, the nut flush draw. Like I just don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know what his range looks like. Like he can have like random clubs.
He can have like 7-6 here.
Right. He could already have a flush. Like this dude could have. I just have no idea.
He could probably call you with like most cards.
Yeah.
You know what like he's in position. He's probably just like whatever. I'm just gonna call.
Right.
Who knows?
He could also have pocket aces. I have seen him flat aces pre. So he could have aces without a club here. Like this dude could have anything.
Okay.
He's got the Brad Owen Revenge Range T-shirt right now.
Okay. So no 5 deuce.
No 5 deuce up.
Okay.
The turn is kind of interesting. It's the Jack of Diamonds. So we pair the top card.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm like, I have no idea what to do.
Okay.
And when I have no idea what to do, my tendency is to just check.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this is a good check on the turn, on like a lot of turns. I mean, I think we can bet. And, like, it's certainly not... Like, again, we have the Ace of Clubs, but I don't know that we need to turn Ace-King into a bluff, especially when the top card pairs, because it, like, really cuts down on the number of combos he has that beat us. And so, like, we can, like, we can even, like, check call, if we wanted to.
That's what I was wondering. I thought to myself, like, can I check call, like, if he goes, I mean, the pot's, like, 120. If he went, like, 100 or 80, can I call? Like, that was my sort of, like, question to myself in the moment. Like, what do you think?
Like, I mean, I think we probably can. Like, right, if he bet, like, 80, right, we'd be getting, we have to call 80 to win 200, so we'd be getting, like, 2.5 to 1. So we'd only have to be good, like, 30%, we only need, like, 30% equity. And, like, we're beating some bluffs, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then our king and ace are live a lot, and our club is live a whole lot, because, like, his range is just so wide.
Right.
So I feel like Ace King as a hand, like, we can check call, and I don't know that we want to like check raise it, because I do think that like it's so like middle of range that like turning it into a bluff is just not something that we have to do. Like we do have plenty of Ace X with a club, blind versus blind. Like probably all of it. Right? We probably have literally every combo of ace-x here.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Like ace-x suited,
Right.
ace-x offsuit. So, like, you know, if we wanted to turn, like, ace-deuce into a bluff, or, like, ace-9 or ace-10 because we, like, block some straights and stuff, like, you know, that's great. But I think our hand, like, if he bets, like, he can also just have, like, one club and then some random garbage. He can have king-6 offsuit with the club.
Sure, that's true.
So I do think this is a good board and a good opportunity to just, like, check call.
Okay, I think that's fair. I wasn't thinking that in the moment, but I actually think that is a great point. What happens, though, is that he bets 40.
Okay.
And, you know, this is a really small sizing.
Yes.
And my thought was like, okay, he can't possibly have a very strong hand here, but he also almost certainly doesn't have nothing.
True.
So I did decide that to try to check raise as a bluff here because of that. Because I figured I could put a lot of pressure on his hands that are taking this size. I don't know if you think that that's reasonable or if it's better to just say, like, whatever, we're getting a great price, let's just call.
I think it's probably fine to, like, mix, honestly, because I think sometimes we definitely can just...
We got to be mixing our big blind versus straddle monotone.
I mean, but, like, I think either is fine. Like, when he makes this bet size, it's like you are just, like, super priced in. Like, this guy obviously sucks. Sorry if you're watching this. I don't know if you plugged the podcast, but, you know, he's like, because, like, so, like, even, the thing is, like, we don't even need to be worried about the river checking back, because, like, something that I have been trying to do is, like, if you are pretty sure that your in position villain is bad, you can just lead. You could just check call lead. Like, when it doesn't make sense and when you literally have only value and you'll still get called.
Right. Totally.
So, like, part of me just wants to say, you know what? Like, whatever. We're just going to check call. If the river goes check on a brick, we're still going to win sometimes. Like, he can maybe have, like, still have, like, king X with the club specifically that's just, like, not sure what to do and just decides to bet small because he wants to see a cheap river. But, you know, if we want to turn our hand into a bluff and, like, I guess the other thing that I'm thinking about is even if he's betting 40, and so I agree he can't have a strong hand, but, like, he can have a jack and just be like, it's monotone, my hand's not very good, so I'm going to bet small.
Right, but he's never going to fold the jack.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So that's one because like people do not understand monotone boards enough. We're like, it is really hard to flop a flush. Right? But if he's like, there's a flush out there, but I just turned jack 10. Like, what am I guess I'm going to bet tiny and be worried, but also never fold.
No, that's a good point, too. Yeah, like, he might be undervaluing his hand. And, like, you know, on the one hand, we like to put pressure on people when they're uncomfortable. But on the other hand, like, maybe we just don't need to here. Because to your point, like, we can just be unbalanced and check call lead, whatever. So, yeah, I do think that check raising here, you've convinced me, was not really ideal. I will say that my sizing here was definitely not ideal.
Okay.
I went 125 and then immediately was like, what the hell? Like, I should have gone so much bigger.
Right, but that's like a less than half pot raise.
Yeah, I think like 200 probably is what it needs to be. But
yeah, I mean, maybe even a little bigger. Maybe just like pot it.
Sure. Yeah, I just think like this is just a horrendous sizing.
Yeah, I mean, he's never folding here.
Right, ever. Like, I don't know what the hell.
And like the other thing is like, I don't know that our hand wants to like always barrel river, but if we raise this size, we kind of have to barrel river because we had no fold equity on the turn.
Right. No, you're 100%. I think this is like truly. When I texted you and was like, I just played a hand atrociously, it was this hand. I was like, wow.
The Bankroll Burners fans have been waiting eagerly.
Truly awful play here.
So I assume villain calls.
Of course, he calls very quickly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, there's just like very poor check raise, and I'm sitting here kicking myself, and then I almost don't even notice the river rolls off the queen of clubs.
Okay, well that's good.
So we get bailed for our terrible play. We make the nut flush, not to the nuts, of course, but villain never has a full house here as played, unless it is specifically queen jack. So
yep, I think that's reasonable. Yeah, so the final board here is jack 8-7 all clubs. Jack on the turn, queen of clubs on the river. Hero has ace king off with the ace of clubs. So, as you say, rivered the nut flush after making way too small of a check raise over a way too small turn bet.
Yep. And we got like 375-ish in the middle. 370.
Yes, 370, not 270. Yes.
And what I think we should bet.
Yes.
What type of sizing do you like here?
Well, I think this is pretty player dependent, because it's like if he's likely kind of got a weak hand, it's going to be hard to get him to call a large bet. And I think that, I mean, it's such a dynamic card, obviously bringing the fourth club. And it's the queen of clubs, which kind of cuts down on some of the value. Like, you know, he can't, if it was like a super low club, there are a lot more hands he can have with a club in it. Like, he can definitely have like Jack 10 off with a club still, or, you know, some type of hand with the king of clubs. But I don't know, maybe we have to bet on the smaller side just because of that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think a small bet is really good, like a blockish type sizing even, maybe. I mean, like, I wouldn't go smaller than like a quarter, but like probably something
think
like...
you could go a little bigger. You could maybe go like a third or 40% or something on this card.
I agree.
I think bombing it is tough to get called still.
I agree. Bombing it is horrendous. So obviously, I bet 275.
Okay, which is even not even bombing it. You know, if you're gonna bomb it, then bomb
it's
right?
just way too big.
Yeah.
Like way too big sizing here, and he pretty quickly folds. Shows a jack. So.
Wow.
I was like, yeah. As soon as I was like, what the hell, man? Why did I do any of this? Like, truly, it's like this is a Bankroll Burners classic right here. Just like, what on earth? On every street, what on earth?
I think pre-flop was great.
Pre-flop was very solid. Open ace king, really high level play here.
Yes, exactly. Come to Bankroll Burners to learn to open ace king, so that you don't wind up like one of those guys who plays ace king too passively pre-flop and then for some reason just goes all in with it, like on every board post-flop.
Those guys are the best.
Sometimes they call all-ins with it. Mm-hmm. Which is even better. And then I got a stupid hand.
I never get there.
I can't believe I called with ace king on 8-7-6 monotone and didn't win. Well, interesting hand. Yeah, I mean, I think that I do just like a call on the turn, but if you're gonna raise big and then block the super nut changing river, and you probably get called a fair amount.
Yeah, I wonder, is there like, is there ever a hand that can bet big on that river for value? I guess like maybe our boats.
Well, I think especially your boats that like don't contain a jack, like especially like if you make like queens full, and you're
that's pretty sickening.
Yeah, that is because like your opponent just always has it like a jack and maybe has like queen jack, jack 8, something like that. So, but that I don't know if you ever play queens like that.
I don't know.
Especially without a club, like you check raising queens on jack 8-7 jack.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that like I might play a hand like 8s or 7s, basically specifically for like.
I think boats you can play like that, because also if you have boats, then your opponent can have a lot of like just ace of clubs hands. Because like your opponent's play does make sense for someone who just has the ace of clubs as well, but of course, when you have it, he can't. More great Bankroll Burners advice.
Yeah, when you have the ace of clubs, your opponent can't have it.
Thanks. Tune in next week. Okay, well, let's move back up the coast to Encore Boston Harbor for some more 2-5 gameplay. And by the way, I've also, a couple weeks ago, I saw that Chasers, another card room in New Hampshire, had a 2-5 table running on the weekend, and its cap was 1,500, which is even higher than Encore. So maybe those New Hampshire rooms are where it's at once again.
Well, that's what Bart seems to think.
Yeah,
but he also likes to play non-Hold'em games. So.
Yeah. He says he has to come to, or at least last night I listened to him, he said he had to come to Encore for 2-5 to make content, because the only big games that run are PLO in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Weird that the PLO scene in New Hampshire is so poppin', but
I mean, there's like a 25-50-50 game or something that runs a Chaser sometimes.
That's
like on
pretty insane.
Tuesdays, I think.
All right.
Well, anyway, that notwithstanding, this is a particularly good 2-5 table. It looks like we're like 500 effective or so in this hand. And I can tell this is a good 2-5 table. I don't remember it perfectly. But the action is that there are 4 limps. So, that's always a good start.
Good start. Love it.
Hero is in the hijack after all 4 players before me limped. And I'm looking down at pocket kings. King of diamonds, king of clubs.
Okay.
So, very happy to see that. And I make it 40.
Nice.
And
you get 3 calls behind you, right?
I'm just making sure 20. Yeah, I mean 40 is about. I think 40 is about the size that I would want to make it. And no, don't be silly. I don't get any calls behind me, but all 4 limpers do call.
Wow. Okay, and so what is your stack here?
So the effect. I guess I didn't write down everyone's stacks.
What's your effective stack, Josh?
I think I had 5. I think I had 500. I think I hadn't had the opportunity to top off yet.
Okay, so you have 500, and these guys are all probably some are shorter, some are
bigger. Because I only have one of their stacks written down, and he had like 1,000.
Okay. All right, so you make it 40, and we're like 200 to the flop.
We now have 200 effective. Yes.
So you're less than 2 to 1 SPR. Awesome.
Limped pots, baby, and we are in position to all 4 players. It's worth noting.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And the flop comes down 8-7-3 with 2 diamonds, 8 of diamonds, 7 of clubs, 3 of diamonds. We do have the king of diamonds here, and it checks to me.
I mean, this is where, I think I would just bet fold this board pretty much with any overpair and then check back most not overpair hands.
Wow, that works, right?
Right? I mean, this is like in these ridiculously multi-way spots, like you can't get too cute.
Yeah. I mean, that's reasonable. And I guess, are you ever like bet calling?
No.
Okay.
Not 5 ways. I don't think so. Like, right? I mean, how do you win?
Yeah.
Look, if there's like a laggy sort of guy who's gonna, check raise his like Jack 10, fine, yeah, you can call him. But if you don't have any read on any of these players that they're like super aggro, then like they just always have a set or 2 pair if they check raise you.
Yeah. Don't want to be the guy that pays off the limp callers.
Yeah.
Well, I do bet. And what sizing would you use here?
I don't think you need to go especially large. Like I mean, I certainly wouldn't go bigger than half pot. But
yes,
I probably would go half pot. I'd probably go half pot.
Because I think multi-way in general. I think my strategy is usually based, depending on the board, have 2 bet sizings, either like a third or like half pot.
Yeah, and I think this is
the board.
This is one where you could probably do half pot.
I think so. I think this is a board where you would bet larger, if it were like a standard heads up spot. So when that's the case, I usually go with the half pot sizing, and that's what I do here. I bet 100. And not only. I don't know why I have that. The under the gun and the low jack players both call.
Okay.
So the pot's now 5.
So under the gun is next act after your.
Under the gun is first act.
First act after you bet. Okay.
So it's fairly strong for him to call.
I agree.
Yeah, and like
you should have at least an 8.
Yeah. You would. Yes, I agree. Maybe a really strong flush draw.
Mm-hmm.
So the turn is not my favorite, but it's not. It's the 6 of clubs. So there's 500 in the pot. There's 350 behind. I think I have 350 behind, assuming that I wrote this down correctly, which is not a guarantee. The board is now 8 of diamonds, 7 of clubs, 3 of diamonds, 6 of clubs. So it's pretty connecting card. Second flush draw is now possible, and we have the king of both.
The king of both. Okay. Does it check to you?
It does check to me. And I guess the question is, is this a spot where we just ship it and cross our fingers, or is this a spot where we want to check it back? And what does a safe river look like when we've got both kings? Like,
I think you just jam. I don't know. I would just jam here. Like, I don't. That maybe is wrong, but like, you can get called by worse.
Definitely.
And
like 9-8, 10-8. Definitely.
Yeah, and totally, and like you can. There are some draws that will call you too.
Yeah.
Versus I would not want to like look to bet safe rivers here because
Right.
there's just less hands to get value from.
Yeah, I
Like
think that's reasonable. And this is why I brought this hand on, is mainly because of this spot where I was like, I just really was not sure. And I feel like I may have missed value in this hand because I was like, I don't, I think I wasn't thinking enough about the SPR where, when you look at it now and you're like, oh, you have like 350 behind, the pot's like 500, just get it in. Like, you're probably ahead. Obviously, like some straights get there and that sucks. But even when they like make two pair, you're not, I mean, you're behind, but you have plenty of outs. And there are definitely still a lot of hands left that can call you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what? Yeah, exactly. Like you can just like you will lose here sometimes, but
yeah, and I think I also maybe overthought this because I was also thinking, I have the king of diamonds and the king of clubs, so that does cut down on the number of combos that can call me. Because like obviously I want my opponents to have those cards because that means they have like a Broadways and a flush draw a lot more. But I think that it's not that many combos in the grand scheme of things, and also the SPR is low, so let's just get it.
Yeah, I also think like certainly like low jack should never have a king high flush draw here anyway.
Yes, although I would think they definitely might.
Well, maybe they might, but they really shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, people love overcalling with all kinds especially a diamond draw. I think the low jack can definitely overcall with a diamond draw, thinking they're super priced in, when in reality they probably do have some pretty bad reverse implied odds a lot of the time.
Yeah. Okay, well, so
I just check back, which I do. I think that's probably wrong, and I should just be chipping here.
Yeah, I mean it's.
And because my thought in game was basically, I actually have both the king of diamonds and the king of clubs, so I'm just going to check back.
I also don't think blockers matter that much here on the turn. A pot where two of your opponents have limp called,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thinking like they could have I was thinking at the time, they could have a lot of hands containing these kings that are just like random suited kings. So, it's just less likely that they have like a flush draw or something in this spot. But, I think it may be at this SPR in this particular spot is probably going a little too deep.
Yeah, I think so. I think you may have out-leveled yourself. Okay.
Well, I mean, and it winds up working out okay because the river rolls off. I mean, pretty much one of the best cards in the deck. You'd have to think it's a 6. It's a 6 of hearts. So the bottom card pairs, that card rolled off on the turn, so it's pretty hard for one of our opponents to have a 6. It's not impossible. They can definitely have a hand like 5-6 or like 7-6 that was looking to check raise. But I think as far as pairing the board, that's the best one that can happen, and it's pretty darn clean.
Okay.
And Under the Gun now comes out and bets 250. And the low jack folds.
I mean,
we kind of did this to ourselves when we checked back the
this
turn.
is what I was kind of afraid of. Also, with checking back the turn, I was gonna say this. I was like, "What are we gonna do if one of them bets?" Like, I don't know. Would you ever just call here, or would you jam? Is this a question of jam or fold?
I guess it's. I mean, I guess it's kind of all of a question of everything because I don't think I think I mean either I wrote my stack down wrong or I really was not thinking in the moment about the stack depth. Because, I mean, I don't know. If we jam, like, he either has a bluff or he's calling us. And it's like, if he's betting for value, it's basically, is he betting worse for value?
Right, that's the question. Is he betting worse for value here? Is he ever betting an 8?
Is he betting like 8-7? Right? Or like, is he betting pocket 9s? I honestly, I don't even know. Because it is always a little scary when limp callers start playing aggressively.
Yeah, this is weird. I don't really know what his range is here. I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't really know. Like, I don't know, especially because it doesn't seem like we know anything about this villain. Like,
right.
I mean, it can't be that bad to call. We're getting 3-1. So I don't think, like, first of all, I don't think calling can be that bad. I do wonder, though, like, it seems so silly to just leave 100 behind, but just, like, in territory where, like, I literally just don't know anything about this player, maybe I just say like, fuck it and just flick in a call.
Right.
I
That's
mean, part of me is also like, well, just raise for the extra 100 because like, who cares?
Right. Right. But like, if it's way more likely that like either we're beat or he's bluffing, then like saving 20 big blinds does have like a meaningful win rate impact, right? And it's like,
yeah, right.
So it's like,
But we
does
just
he
don't
have
know.
enough combos?
We just
that,
don't
Yeah.
know.
Because
I think
obviously he can never fold if he has value, right? Like even if he has
Correct.
nines or like 9-8 or something. But like
Correct.
I just don't know that he's betting 9-8. So I don't know. So I guess it is kind of. I mean, it is kind of between. I think it's between jam and call. I don't know. Can we really ever fold here for this price?
No.
When both draw. I mean, and yes, I mean I know we have both kings and both flush draws missed, but still, like.
No, I think I would just stick it in here.
Okay, I mean I think that's reasonable. I wind up just calling. I am just kind of. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think I was probably like you and just a little confused by the situation, and I was like, well, whatever. I'm just gonna call and see what happens. And he just says you're good in mucks.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But like, I mean, I do think that that just goes to show like we have to bet the turn.
We just rip the turn and
we have to.
Don't worry about the river and always get it all. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So weird spot. I think was an interesting decision. All those multi-way limpy pots are always a treat and a staple of live low stakes poker. So if you want to get worse at them, keep on listening.
Keep on listening. If you've made it this far, before we get to this over $2,000 pot, please comment on this video or like it or hit the sub button. Maybe. I mean, that would be pretty swell.
Yeah.
Did that. We're back, so you should tell us that you're happy about that.
Yeah. If you want to see us take lighters to dollar bills, give us some love.
Absolutely. So, all right.
So let's get to this purported big hand.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think there's a chance that you're gonna yell at me for this hand. So I'm excited.
Great.
So we're 1,500 effective at this 2-5 game, 8-handed. So I'm quite deep with this villain. I've been playing with him for maybe an hour, a little more. He's fairly ABC, but I have seen him like raise his draws as a bluff.
What a concept.
Well, honestly,
raising when you don't have it is like lying.
Exactly.
And that's
crazy.
Wrong.
And that's immoral. But I do think it's noteworthy to say if you've seen a live player do that. Like I do think it should affect how you play against them because most like live players.
See, this makes me want to come back to Florida because in the 2-5 game in Boston, most players raise their draws.
Well, not so here in Jacksonville, Florida. So all right. Yeah, but no really particular reads on this player, to be perfectly honest. So he opens it up to 80 under the gun.
Is there a straddle?
Or sorry, 20.
Oh,
yeah.
He
opens it up to 20 under the gun. This is just straight 2-5.
Yeah, all right.
And I'm in the cutoff and make it 80.
Ah, okay.
With King of Clubs, Queen of Clubs. So, I mean, I'm pretty much always 3-betting this, I think. Maybe since it's an under the gun open, I can flat, but
yeah, I think you can do both. I mean, maybe I don't know. It seems bad to fold, but maybe it's. I mean, it's a UTG open. It's so tight. It's theoretically so tight.
Yeah, but I don't really think it is. So
yeah. So exactly, I'm happy with this. It is a big 3-bet, but I guess you're deep and in position.
Yeah, we're pretty deep. I feel like I should go a little bigger. So.
Yeah.
He calls.
Okay, and only he calls. Mm-hmm. Wow. Right. What a treat.
So the flop comes King of Diamonds, Jack of Spades, 4 of Hearts.
Flop
so double
comes...
Broadway here.
Sorry, say King of Diamonds, Jack of Spades,
4 of Hearts.
4 of Hearts.
So we do make top pair.
We make top pair, good kicker.
Yep. And I think on this board, I do want to use probably a 2/3 sizing. I did accidentally go $80, but I think I meant to bet a little larger. But I mean, I don't think half pot's terrible, but I do think a little bigger is better. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you can bet small on double Broadway boards and 3-bet pots, can't you?
If one of them's an ace, definitely.
Right.
But I think I don't know. I'm not actually totally sure. But I guess my thought was like, well, I should have more like 2 pairs than him, but he should also have like a decent amount of strongish hands.
And you obviously have more ace king, more aces. You, I think I guess he should never be opening king jack offsuit, although people definitely do.
They do. But
they do.
He shouldn't. He probably isn't opening and calling a 3-bet.
Although you hopefully are not 3-betting a UTG Open a whole lot with king jack off either.
Not off, but suited.
Yeah, and he should have, but he has probably both combos of king. He probably has king jack suited as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, are you betting your whole range here?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not. Like, I actually think like king 10 suited, I would check back.
Okay, and then like a lot of like jack X, like queen jack, ace jack suited, those types of hands probably also check back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
but then bet my ace king. I think king queen is pretty cuspy, but I think it should be a bet.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's fine. It's definitely villain dependent too, but if this guy's a little bit more aggressive and maybe a little bit more capable, then he shouldn't have as much ace king.
Right.
Although he probably
and I'm not saying he's aggressive or capable. I'm just saying that like I'm just telling you my one note on him was like I saw him check raise bluff and draw.
So yeah, I think betting here is definitely fine. I mean, I'm not like I'm probably not looking to like get it in across 3 streets if we don't improve.
Sure. I think that's fair. So I make it 80 and he check raises to 400.
Wow.
Which I already hate it, and I considered folding.
Okay.
Do you think that that's stupid?
No, I think that's reasonable. I mean, we have a pretty so there's no flush draw, so we pretty much block the only draw that exists, which is like queen 10, maybe ace queen. He is making quite a lot. So if he called the 80, it would be 320. So he's basically potting it.
Right.
He's basically potting it. And our hand is not... But, you know, I mean, what are we... If we fold this, you know, are we calling ace-king? Are we calling aces? You know, like what... Or are we kind of just really restricting our calling range and saying, yes, we've seen the sky raise draws before, but at the end of the day, it's 2-5. How many guys are bombing it with a draw? But all that to say, I'd probably call. I mean, I would probably have to call here once and see what happens.
I was kind of what I thought. Like, I thought about it for a while, and I was like, I just feel like I can't fold. Can we fold? I mean, can we fold king 10?
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't know. Is king queen better,
so. Well,
materially better than king 10?
I also think. I mean, you raise a reasonable point. That this is, as you pointed out earlier, this is pretty much the bottom of our value betting range.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, does that mean that we can just fold here? Because, like, this is the bottom of our value betting range. Because, like, king 10, to your point, you know, you're probably checking back a reasonable
Sure,
amount.
yeah, we did just say that, so ignore
right?
my question.
But that would imply that this is the bottom of the value range.
That being said, like, we should have a decent amount of bluffs that we can just happily fold, though.
Yep, absolutely. So, we have all sorts of junk. All sorts, like, gutters.
Ace 10.
Yep, ace 10, like 10-9 suited sometimes.
Sure. Ace 4.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. No, I agree. I think we definitely have plenty of like crap that we can fold here too, because this is a board where all our bluffs are going to be pretty low equity.
Mm-hmm.
Just by
with like
virtue
the
of
exception of like specifically queen 10 suited.
Yeah, queen 10 with the backdoor.
Yeah.
So that does that. So, you know, I think you'd probably go either way here, but I'd probably call. And because like there is also a chance that if he is bluffing, he checks turn, and you know you have an opportunity you can evaluate there, and or obviously you have some cards that can help you improve, but you may be drawing pretty slim if he's got a hand like king jack or pocket jacks.
Right. Yeah, my thought was I would probably fold to most turn barrels.
Yeah,
but I figured I had to call once.
And obviously, by the way, maybe not obviously because but if you call here, right, the SPR is basically going to be 1. Right, because the pot's 160 of 1.3 behind, so you're basically going to have 900 behind and 950 in the pot.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
So,
But I mean, if he jams turn, we can fold pretty easily, obviously.
Yes. I mean, yeah. So again, it is villain dependent. I mean, there are definitely some people who I think you can definitely fold flop because you just know that they're so value heavy that once they raise flop, they're always jamming turn. Basically.
Yeah, if this is an OMC, you know.
I mean, if this is an OMC and you 3-bet his UTG open with king queen suited, we're gonna need to sit down and have a talk.
That's true. You know, I was so annoyed at this table, just as an aside. There was this like extreme nit, like a freaking 2% VPIP nit, and he got it. He like stacked some people, like he stacked 2 people at the same time. They got it in with him on the flop, and I was like, "Are you guys high? How are you putting chips in the pot with this man?" Like, it was just very infuriating when people pay off nits.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, I must have messed up the effective stat because actually, right? You said you started with 1,500, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So actually, you've each put in like 480 now, so you've got just over a K behind and 960 in the pot, but still close enough to a 1SP.
Yeah. Okay.
So you call. So okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Totally
you call.
Throwing the top here. So I call. King Jack 4 turn is the Jack of Diamonds pairs the middle card, which I was sort of happy about because I thought, well, he that cuts down on the jacks and King Jack. There's actually only one possible combo now of King Jack suited.
Yes. Although there was only one combo before of King Jack suited.
True enough. Well, but at least we've cut down on pocket jacks.
We've cut down on jacks. Yes, we're not. It's. He can't have that many hands that beat us here. I mean, he can have a whole lot of ace king still. Although,
I just really, this was like sort of a question for me. Was like, and I was thinking this in game, was like, does he ever have ace king? I think the answer is just no. Like, not that he shouldn't, but
you mean
just
he's not check potting it?
He's just like live players at 2-5 are simply not check potting.
Okay, yes, no, I think that's. I think the type of player who is check potting ace king and the type of player who is just calling a 3-bet with ace king are like Venn like 2 circles.
Yeah, the Venn diagram is 2 circles. Like, this is not a thing.
That's very reasonable.
Yeah, I did think about that in game, but I just decided to discount ace king. So, he checks now to me, and I did consider betting here. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's a little funky, right? Because I think when he checks, like, and as you've said here, it's tough for him to have a value hand. Like, which means he's likely on a draw of some sort. Right. Most probably a hand like Queen 10.
Right, which we do block, but he should have some combos of it.
And also, even though we block it, it's like there's still more combos of Queen 10 than King Jack and Jacks, right? There's only one.
Right, I mean, there's one combo of Jacks, one combo of King Jack. There's 3 combos of Queen 10 suited, and some amount of Ace Queen probably.
And maybe Ace 10 if we're assuming he's doing it with that, with like gutters. But
well, yeah,
it's definitely a weird board for him to like have just bombed it on you, and like he can also have like 4s. Yeah.
I thought about that. Do you think he's checking 4s on this turn? That was I did ask myself that. I was like, could he ever have 4s here?
Yeah.
Like, that would be such a weird line.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I feel like maybe, but I just thought it was like really
it would be weird because like you definitely just want to get it in on the turn with 4s because now the jack comes off, there are actually some pretty nasty / annoying like rivers.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't really think he had 4s. I was thinking like, can I get value from Queen 10 or Ace Queen? But I don't know.
And then it's also weird because, you know, the SPR is like 1. So you'd have to bet like small here.
Right.
And then you'd have not much behind. So, you know, like even if you bet like a 3rd pot here, that would leave you with like less than half pot on river.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you really want to do that here? You know, are you?
He's right, because then also, what if he just jams? Then it's like, I mean, he just doesn't fold, I guess. But like,
and like, if you jam yourself, I mean, the advantage of jamming yourself is basically, I don't think it's horrible to just jam here because you do like, you're kind of just like cleaning up equity when you jam here because like his Queen 10 is like not paying you off on the river if it misses. Like you can't really get anything from the hands that you're beating. That he has.
Right, that's right. You're probably right. I can't just bet small and to hope that to get called by Queen 10 because I do risk him just jamming here.
So I think if you're gonna bet here, you just have to like jam. I don't know that our hand wants to jam because like
I don't think so.
if he does have like ace king or something, like I mean we do have. It's nice to have a king. It's nice to have this king because it rather than having the king of spades because we do cut down on the king jack combos because he could be trapping with king jack or jacks for sure.
Right. I think playing jacks this way would be very reasonable.
Yes. So it's like we could, but like, so what are we like? Would we want to jam ace king here?
Well, first of all, I guess I don't think there's. I mean, the material difference between ace king and king queen is ace king doesn't block queen 10.
Yes, and also
that's the only difference.
We don't lose
because like he never.
King.
I really think he never has ace king here.
Right.
So.
Right. But I still think ace king is slightly better just because it doesn't block queen 10.
Right. Yeah. I think certainly if we had like kings, could we jam?
Well, I wouldn't even want to jam kings.
Yeah.
I'd want to check back kings probably. Or maybe just bet small, exploitatively bet small, jam for small.
Sure, yeah. I mean, are we just like checking? Because like if we're not really betting kings, are we just checking back our entire like what value bets do we have on this turn? So I guess we have to have like ace jack. No, but we're not betting ace jack on the flop, so we don't have ace
right,
jack.
because the thing is, right, is again like maybe a spot where this is sort of a deviation from what like the solver would say is your opponent we are viewing your opponent's range as being very condensed once he check raises the flop, whereas a person at equilibrium would have all sorts of weird bluffs.
Right, but he definitely does not.
And thin value, like would have a lot of both.
Right.
And yes, and most live players, and it sounds like this guy included, is still quite polar and probably has like either a very strong hand like 2-pair plus or like a high equity draw, which is basically on a rainbow board just the open ender and maybe the gutter with an over at some amount.
Right. We don't really know how much, but some kind of amount. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. So you're right. Like against that super condensed range, like the question is like, would we want to jam ace king to like clean up some equity?
Right, because all we're doing is basically getting queen 10 to fold.
And I guess the answer to that is probably not, because it's going to be really easy to fold river if an ace comes.
Now, I guess my other question is, if you check back and the river bricks and he jams, are you calling?
Why don't we move on to the next street?
All right, so it sounds like you check it back here.
I checked back, yeah.
Okay.
The river is the 8 of diamonds, which I would classify as a brick.
It does complete
even though it completes the flush, I just don't.
So it's not a total brick, right? Because actually a quarter of his queen 10 is improved.
That's true. That's true. So it's not a total brick. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry. So he now, I'm sorry. There definitely was not a flush completing river, so
okay, so
I
we'll
just
call it
wrote
the
down
8
the
of spades.
Yeah, I definitely did not complete the flush.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely did not. So I'm sorry. It was, let's say, the 8 of spades.
Okay.
Yeah, because that would have definitely changed the calculus for this hand. So yeah, basically it's a brick.
Yeah.
The 8 of spades, let's say. He now cuts out chips and bets 700, leaving himself with 250 behind.
Ugh.
I know. And yeah, ugh.
Yeah, I don't know. This is like a really just brutal spot.
I know.
And I mean, this is one advantage of like just ripping turn as being like, but it's so bad because then when we get called, we just lose.
Right. I don't really like.
We're just turning king queen, but it's not, it's like a weird mergey bet.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I guess so. Like to our point is like there may not be, a turn value range, or I guess it's just ace king maybe or something.
Yeah,
or
maybe we just check back and then evaluate river and if that's the case, then I think we have a pretty clear fold. Because if we're checking back our whole range on the turn, then this is a pretty bad hand for us on the river. Like we'd rather
Why do
call,
you say that?
right? Because we'd rather call with We'd way rather call with ace king. We have
Right.
all the strong hands too. Like we have king jack, kings, and jacks, and I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know if like aces is kind of a wash.
I think aces is worse than this hand.
Yeah, but I mean, if we think queen 10 is his main bluff, I guess it depends on how much. Yeah, but this blocks a king and queen 10, so.
Yeah, this blocks. I think aces is materially worse than king queen.
But also, it's like I don't know. It's like live poker. We have, and it's 2-5. We have tons of better hands, and we block the bluffs. So even if we do use blockers, it still says bad.
Yeah. I will say in the game I wasn't really thinking about where I was in my range, which is really a terrible. But like what I was thinking about was what the hell does he have that plays this way?
Mm-hmm.
And the only hands I could think of were specifically one combo of jacks and then king jack of hearts, and I was like, well, that's just so few hands.
Right, I think that's probably true, but also like what bluffs does he have to play this way? And it's also not many.
It's just like 3 hands, and then like maybe a couple others.
Right.
But
and it's like, does he even fire the barrel here with queen 10 always? Is the other thing.
Right, probably not. Right. So, but like, if he's firing it, this is the thing. If it's like, if he's doing it with like 2 bluffs, then actually this is a call. Like if there's literally only 2 value hands, then there only needs to be like 1 or 2 bluffs.
Yeah.
Like 2 bluffs.
Does he ever have kings here?
Well, I didn't think so. Like, I was like...
Spoiler.
Yeah, I didn't think he could have kings here. But I did call, and he had kings.
So. Yeah, because that's the other thing he could have, right? I don't know. I mean, I just think, like, it's a pretty brutal spot, but it's like, does he even play queen 10 this way all the time, right? Like, maybe...
Right.
Like, it is possible that between the bet on the pot on the flop and like the big not all in bet on the river, that he just has minuscule amounts of queen 10 or none at all.
That's very true. I do think that this is a fold, but I in game I was just like, your line makes no sense, which is true. Like, yes. Lines that only 2 or 3 hands could play this way make no sense.
Right.
But sometimes they will just have those hands.
Yes, but I mean, and definitely sometimes they will also just have like there is obviously just the live spaz factor TM, right? It's right. Like he could does he ever have ace deuce that he's just like just going completely crazy with?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But yes, because obviously he is repping like literal 3 combos. I totally agree with you. He's got 1 combo of king, 1 combo of king jack, and 1 combo of jack jack.
I don't really think he should have kings, obviously, but he does.
Yes, I mean he shouldn't if you don't, but like many people will.
So, yeah, I did think, the thing is like the idea, as the live spies factor TM, as you brought up, that Bart Hansen talks about, is like why he doesn't like to make big folds in live poker, but this isn't really a big fold.
Right, like I wouldn't fold pocket, like if you had pocket 4s here by some miracle, and I would never fold here.
Right.
For example, even though you do lose to some hands, that's like so high up in your range, right? Any boat would just never fold. But this, I agree. Like if you called with ace king, then I think that's much more reasonable. I might still fold ace king here because it's like it is just such a. But I think it's definitely better. I might still fold ace king sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think this is a stupid call by me, but I was I was upset that my stack was so large, and I just wanted to fix that. So.
Hey, you're staying true to the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Pretty bad play. Classic bad play.
Yeah, I mean, hey, honestly, I think that the answer is just fold flop.
Yeah, I do wonder about that.
As horribly nitty as that sounds.
Yeah. It could be. I don't think folding flop is atrocious.
Because by the way, even if his bluffs are queen 10, his queen 10 has a lot of equity.
Sure.
Right? He's got 30% with the hands that you're the hands that you're ahead of have 30% equity, and the hands that you're behind have 90 plus.
Right. No, that's true. I think folding flop is probably right.
So maybe that's the answer is let's not even worry about the turn in the river because we shouldn't be here.
Could have saved $1,000.
Well, that's life. That's poker.
That's poker, Phil. Well, thanks everybody for coming along with us on our return. We're excited to be back and to keep punting stacks for your enjoyment.
That's the goal. Thanks everyone for tuning in and have a good night.